let's talk. Because Jermaine Burton obviously is having issues right now and potentially might leave the team. Depending on if we can corral that crazy man or not. So I thought, let's look back at the draft class from last year, but just the wide receivers. So I put together this little spreadsheet. We got what round they were drafted in, their name, snap count, yards, receptions, and touchdowns. Now, surprisingly enough, receiver is a very volatile position when it comes to the draft. Yes, there's times where receivers can hit, absolutely. But throughout history, John Ross is a good example of this. There's a lot of receivers in the first round who end up being bust, 100%. This year, for the most part, outside of Ricky Pearsall, who got shot, which kind of hurt his chances at the beginning of the season, every receiver in the first round actually looks pretty good. Marvin Harrison Jr., 812 yards. 822 yards, 7 touchdowns. Malik Neighbors, 1,140 yards, 6 touchdowns. Ramaduze, 716, 3 touchdowns. Brian Thomas Jr., 1179, 10 touchdowns. Xavier Worthy, 638, 6 touchdowns. Ricky Pearsall, 331 yards, 2 touchdowns. Xavier Leggetti, 467 yards and 4 touchdowns. I know I'm butchering his name. Every receiver is actually pretty good. Usually you'll have like one receiver that's kind of iffy. Receiver in general is a very volatile position. You can usually get a receiver in the 4th or 5th round that is absolutely amazing. And then you have a first round pick who's a bust. And that usually happens almost every single draft. You have one receiver later in the day 2, day 3 picks who are really good. And then the first day will be an awful pick. But not the case this year, which is cool. Second round. Actually, my bad. I kind of butchered this with the color scheme. Let me change the color scheme here. So here's the second round. Excuse me. Sorry. For a second, I saw Jermaine Burton. And I said second round. I'm like, what's going on here? Keanu Coleman, so far having a pretty good year. Ryan McConkey, pretty good year as well. Jalen Polk is our first technical bust, and I say technical because Devontae Adams is on that squad. They also got Garrett Wilson. They also got a crap ton of other receivers. So, is he a bust? We can't say that yet. What we can say is there's a lot of mouths to feed on that team. So, I think he'll be good over the next couple years, especially if Garrett Wilson leaves and Devontae Adams leaves. I think he can find a way to develop into something. But he's our first guy under 100 yards. And that obviously is second round. Mitchell, 312 yards, 23 receptions, and 0 touchdowns. Not really the greatest, but a lot better than our third round. Whoo, mama. Our third round is not looking too good so far. The guy who actually got picked before Jermaine Burton, Corley, 16 yards, 3 receptions, 0 touchdowns. Obviously, Jermaine Burton, ironically enough, is starting to look like a hero in this round. 107 yards on 4 receptions. Roman Wilson played 5 snaps, hasn't recorded a single stat yet, and that's a Pittsburgh Steelers wide receiver. Jalen McMillan, 387 yards, 32 receptions, and 7 touchdowns. Yeah, he's the hit from this draft, from this round here. And then Luke McCaffrey, 168 yards, 18 receptions, and 0 touchdowns. Obviously, Jalen's played the most snaps, so he does have the best numbers. Obviously, it doesn't always translate like that. For example, Luke, for his snap count, should have way better numbers in this, but didn't work out. Fourth round, Troy Franklin, 251 yards, 26 receptions, and 2 touchdowns. Jerome Baker hasn't put up a single piece of stat, but he has 51 snaps. Quez Walker for the Baltimore Ravens, 21 yards, 1 reception, and 1 touchdown. He literally caught 1 reception for a 21-yard touchdown. That's always the best. Jacob Cowing, 50 yards, 2 receptions, 0 touchdowns. 5th round, not much better at all. There's only one receiver here who actually hit above 100 yards, and ironically enough, by any means, it was Bubba Means. So 118 yards and 9 receptions and a touchdown. 6th round, nothing really special. Jordan Whittington has 207 yards and 19 receptions. That's something. And then Veely is the only guy in the 7th round who actually did anything. The other 2 guys aren't even on an NFL roster anymore. So, for the most part, looking at the receiving class, right? Obviously, we have issues right now with our boy Jermaine Burton, as he is a troublemaker, as they would say. He's not really having the worst season possible compared to most other receivers from this draft class. Now, I believe, if I am correct, this receiving class was supposed to be a really good wide receiving class. Like, this was supposed to be the Grand Slam one, which, so far, listen, first year means nothing. Well, it doesn't mean nothing, but first year really doesn't tell the whole story. You know, you have to wait to the 2nd, 3rd, 4th, okay, maybe 2nd, 3rd year to kind of see if these guys, how good these guys are going to be. You can't call a player a bust until after, I would say, their 2nd or 3rd year. Unless you're Jermaine Burton. Then you can't call him a bust if we have to cut him. The only way you can call a player a bust for your team is if you have to cut that player because he's a troublemaker. And we might have to cut him. So if we have to cut him, he's obviously 100% a bust. If we don't have to cut him, then I won't call him a bust. I want to see how he develops. But if we have to cut him, my guy, you're considered a bust. Beside the point, compared to the other guys of last or this year's draft class, he's not playing too bad. He's actually better than, 60% of this draft class. So, I guess Jermaine Burton? Just in the most important game of the season with T. Higgins not 100% and going through injury, we can't even rely on you to be our wide receiver number 3. Yeah, that's pretty bad. 107 yards, though. 107 yards and 4 receptions. Hooday, boys. Hooday.